Greetings, my friends. Welcome back to the chat box. This is David Guitar. As usual, we're back to bring you some very interesting information. Our friend Samuel Nikoma is back in the house to be able to share with us some very interesting news. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. How have you been?
Not bad. Been busy, been answering questions from the last episode. By the way, friends, if you haven't watched the last episode, check in the description. The link is there. Go and watch Samuel. The first episode was very good. He did us very, very well. Thank you for that.
I appreciate it.
Lots of people have been in box.
Always.
Yeah. So feel free to comment, send us a comment, send us a question, send us your responses, whatever. We'll be able to answer them. But before we go any further, I want you to greet our people once again.
Oh, salutations, our viewers. It's been a very exciting time already. We've seen our reviews are really good. And I want to thank David Guitar for giving me this opportunity to come back and yet again educate and impart knowledge and opportunities out there.
Absolutely, without a single doubt. So last time we looked at the community person in you.
Absolutely.
This time we want to turn tables a little bit, turn them around to see the professional side of you. Absolutely. And on the last episode, you mentioned a bit about fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what is it about fire you did in Uganda?
I was headhunted.
Yeah.
To work for an outfit. I think the first fully fledged private fire station and service and provider. Okay. The station is it has the fire trucks. So that is like this.
Okay, so it's the equivalent of the Uganda Fire Brigade, but private practice.
Absolutely, private.
So full-fledged with the fire station, fire trucks, firemen. I was going to say fire masters.
That's what it was like.
Yeah.
The company was called Fire Magnet Limited.
Okay.
It's an outfit on the Table Road.
Yeah.
It had these fire engine trucks,
yeah,
firefighters,
yeah, and
had fire extinguishers and all other equipment that
full-fledged
related to fire.
Yeah.
So my role was the chief commercial officer.
Chief commercial officer.
Yes.
When you talk fire, we don't see that much activity of fire. There are countries where you hear fire truck going back and forth.
Absolutely.
Not that much in Uganda. So let's get to the bottom of fire.
Absolutely.
Is there any alarm for fire in Uganda? Any need for having such an outfit in Uganda?
We must realize that first and foremost, one of the first things they discovered was fire. Just down here in Old Vi Gorge.
Yeah.
That's where fire was. The first man created fire down there.
Yeah.
So this fire has been part and parcel for ages in our communities.
Yeah.
It has been used. Most of the time when fire would catch the huts down there, the people would say it's witchcraft.
Yeah.
But because they didn't have mechanisms, traditional firefighting began by, let's say, for the harvests.
Yeah.
The farmers would dig gullies to prevent fire from skipping one garden to the next.
That's how they controlled it.
Yes, that's how they controlled. So fire is that item that we use every day.
Yeah.
But when it turns against you, you don't have the mechanisms to
control
it.
Yeah.
And in that space, you lose a property, you actually
possibly even lose life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that perception brings you to understand, do we really have the attention, or do we give the fire safety the attention it deserves?
Yeah, I mean, we have fire brigade.
Absolutely. Now, in the setting of Uganda, for instance, figures yet to be established. We have, if I'm not mistaken, we have 46 fire stations
in the country.
Let's take that bare minimum. Each station has. We have in Gulu, we have in Kabale, we have the airports.
So like region,
we have regional stations.
Yes.
Not fully fledged, but they're there.
Yeah.
Now the proximity to be able to provide the emergency response to 20 kilometers.
Maybe
let's imagine in Karamoja.
Maybe it's also disaster prone because you can imagine on a concentrated settlement like the capital.
Yes.
You definitely need more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to come to that.
Carry it on.
That is what we want to let people know.
Yeah.
We want to tell them that, or to bring the awareness that both to the policy people, to corporate organizations, NGOs and well-wishers, grants and stuff. This is what we want to bring to forward. You know what? Uganda is growing at a rapid rate.
Yep.
That means everybody wants to set up a business.
Yep.
In the grand scheme of business setup, have you put in place fire safety as a key component of your infrastructure development?
Policymakers now.
Policymakers, even me as the owner of a business.
Yeah.
You have an apartment.
Oh, wait. So I thought it's the duty of the policymakers The fire station, fire, not me as a business person. I'm supposed to be protected by them.
You know, it takes two to tango.
Okay.
If I put up the fire station,
Yeah.
in order to make sure that that life and property is saved in the community, that's through awareness, through effective training, or preventive mechanisms.
Yeah. But you see, the problem also is like sometimes the policy will come up. Like, for example, there's a time when they're doing a hand down on vehicles without those things, the first aid box, the fire extinguisher, this car triangle thing.
Yeah.
And people thought we're being haunted by the government. So setting a policy is one thing, but the people understanding the policy is the other thing.
It's unfortunate that we as Ugandans look at such implementations as policing or as witch hunting.
Yeah.
The law and policy and regulation are put in place because of you. It's because of the future, because of the anticipation. If you're putting up a school, for instance, because we have different stakeholders going to involve.
Yeah.
If the policymakers, who is the Ministry of Education, the district education officer, has the tools, for instance, the law, that's one. You have the pre-inspection.
Yeah.
You go out and say, you're opening up a school, you must make sure the school has this, and this.
So is that at the point of opening up the school,
I'm giving
or the point at doing the plans to construct the building which will host the school?
Now, engineers will tell you that when they're putting up big infrastructures, the architect will do the drawing. Once you do the drawing, you take that structure to the mechanical engineer. They call it M&E. The M&E, mechanical and electrical. They also do that drawing on the building.
Yeah.
They then the electric then that drawing is given to the building engineer.
Yeah.
For instance, I think the construction team.
Yeah.
That drawing is shared with the in Kampala, in Wakiso, Kampala, to be the physical planning officer.
Yeah.
Or the engineer in charge
For approval.
For approval. Then he signs it off. When he signs it off, he gives you to go and start constructing. Very interesting. At that point, there is monitoring
to make sure all those things are taken care of.
In engineering, it's called the as-built. When you finish building that structure, you're supposed to get another architect or the engineer to do what they call the as-built, a comparison between the design approved and the as-built design. As-built. That as-built is signed off by the physical planner. Now, at that point is where we lose focus. The Uganda we are in, we try to cut corners, which is unfortunate, by the way, but overall you realize that why the as-built is there is because their lives going to be occupying that premises at stake and property.
Case in point, for example, when you walk downtown Kampala, down there when you have lots of people in the tens of thousands, you walk into these buildings and literally even the staircase is being rented off to someone. They have, like how am I sure that all those things are being catered for?
You know, it's a very unfortunate thing that's happening, and we regret that because the entrepreneurs and the investors have taken advantage and put our people at risk. So we are saying that we must be able to educate, increase education, and moving forward, this is how our buildings will be. This is what we shall address. That if we do that rightly, then Kampala will expand. But most especially, our people will understand the risk that comes with trading, like you said, renting that space. So before you go to a building, you'll be able to know, I think the load is called the fire load. That's the number of people in a building versus the structural strength of that building. In the event of fire,
I don't think my typical Ugandan person would understand or even care for any of that. But here's the question: who's to blame? We're now at policy level.
Yes, of course, the government or the institutions that are empowered to ensure that there is compliance are sleeping on the job. Or they're overwhelmed.
Maybe they're not facilitated.
Absolutely, that's what's coming. They're overwhelmed. We have over 70% of the Ugandan population is below 35. Very enterprising guys. Now, there are a time these people can be able to quickly adjust to change if directed well and redirect an environment that can provide sufficient safety for their future investment.
Yeah.
But ideally, as we mentioned, the problem is at the policy level, of which, if the policy is in place,
Yeah.
then the investors are giving a blueprint on how effective they can be able to work with that policy.
So are you saying we don't have the policy, or are we just weak at enforcing the policy?
We are unfortunate that this agenda of fire safety and emergency response is a sector that has not been given due attention.
Yeah.
So even at school, the engineers will side with me. They study about fire, but they said prefer to go to more lucrative areas of what? Of their trade.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
come
so-
to think of it, do we have a fire training school? Do we have a fire? I mean, we hear all these institutions and colleges and academies. I don't know that I've seen one that specifically handles disasters like that. Even though we've had several of them. You remember the Nachivable fires, the school fires.
absolutely.
We've had several fuel trucks burning people. We've had several buildings. We had the other person who burned people in the church.
Yes, Chibwete.
Chibwete.
Unfortunately,
So there's been enough.
We've had the Budo fire. We've
Yeah.
had, the blind children.
Yeah,
burning
so
in Congo.
maybe next episode we'll come down from the policy level. But before we leave the policy level where we are today, is it the enforcement? Is it the policy making? Is it the vigilance of us, the people?
Let's look at it this way. The laws are put in place.
Yeah.
Okay. Once the laws are put in place, we have to get people who can be able to implement the law
Yep.
to the letter. Now, when the laws come into place, what implementation requires funding, requires training, and capacity building, and whatever goes around with
Yeah.
execution.
Yeah.
Now, at that point, they will say the law is there, but we are not effective. What are we effective about? We have few firefighters.
Yeah.
Who has the mandate? For instance, in Uganda right now, everything fire, they'll signpost you to
police.
the Uganda police,
Yeah.
the Directorate of Fire and Safety. So you ask yourself, how many of the police force members are actually firefighters? The last statistics give us about 600 firefighters on a population of 48 million, about 40 million. Where you'll find each firefighter will have to be up to about 60,000 Ugandans.
So the ratio is 1 to
1 to
60,000.
60,000.
There's no way.
You see.
Yeah.
So when you bring these statistic gaps,
Yeah.
then I think we should invest in training.
Yeah.
So if you train more manpower to be able to address, they'll talk about lack of money, but we have a police force that is extremely doing most of service of policing, but forgetting about providing the sufficient or safe environment
Yeah.
for our citizens.
Yeah.
So for ideally, if the policy is there
Yeah.
and the documentation is done well,
Yeah.
and then we selectively provide sufficient training
Yeah.
of sufficient awareness.
Yeah.
In the US, they have volunteers.
Yeah.
Make it attractive.
Yeah.
Make sure that we know that the policy is in place for safety in the schools. In the church, for instance, in the church, do you have fire marshals? You know, we
Yeah.
all we pray so hard and forget of the bare minimum tools to
You
serve.
pointed out, in the school, you go down to the schools and you find these scouts club. We have such clubs, but we don't have a fire
You
club.
just mentioned it. We can incorporate. We are not saying we're not going to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
We can incorporate and say that all the scouts should be able to have fire skills, so they can become part and parcel of the fire agenda. This is all
good.
safety. The role of the scout, as you know, it's a social commitment.
Yeah.
So that's a social commitment in the school.
Yeah.
And those are the avenues.
That's one good one.
So you.
And I say the other one, like you talked about fire magnet.
Absolutely.
If the government will come up into a public-private partnership
Yes.
and empower such initiatives, give a few waivers here and there, give a support, a handout here and there, an injection here and there. I think that alone, imagine if we had like five magnets in Uganda,
absolutely.
in each region,
Absolutely.
to back up the public service, I think we would be at a better place.
You are spot on.
Yeah.
We have an outfit that we have put in place with some other colleagues because it's special to address issues of fire awareness.
Yeah.
The outfit is called East Africa Fire Training Institute.
Okay.
Its clear agenda is to train.
Yeah.
We find that if we train more firefighters, like you say, you already saw the gap
Yeah.
of trained fire personnel. Let me give you a sense. We have over 5,000 boarding schools in Uganda.
Yeah.
Primary and secondary school.
Yeah.
You just imagine you train in each of those schools, you
Yeah.
have a firefighter or a fire safety warden.
Like they have a nurse.
Absolutely.
A school nurse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we need to have a fire person in the school, but not limited to fire, because you can go into security. What does the security man know?
Yeah.
Beyond that, he can be able to carry out the training. A qualified fire safety person can
Yeah.
provide fire training
Yeah.
to marshal and ward the students into a safe place. The hospital fire safety.
Yeah.
But we have these colorful jobs that I'm a safety officer.
Yeah.
So, but we're asking, yes, if you're a safety officer or
Yeah.
if you're a fire safety officer,
Yeah.
is it only for a day?
Yeah, for the pay.
That's a
That's what's right now happening. But what would be a better place? In fact, I want you to give, as we wrap it
Yes,
up,
sure.
to give a few recommendations on the policy level. Next time we'll handle something else. But on the policy level, what should the state consider enacting in order to ensure safety?
I would request government
Yeah.
to allocate sufficient funds
Yeah.
in awareness, constant awareness. So my issue is that government should come out clear and to have a sustainable fire policy plan.
Yeah. Why do you think they've been lagging behind? Is it that they don't know, they don't care, they are busy with something else?
Yeah, it is. I want to credit Ugandans.
Yeah.
We have so many needs to be addressed and then to catch up with the world out there. We are trying to run a race that is not designed for us at the moment.
But I see when other disasters, the other time we had the locusts, they respond to such emergencies. Why can't they come up to respond to, or maybe plan? To wait for disaster to happen, then we sit and talk about it.
If you provide the necessary planning infrastructure,
Yeah.
and provide it sustainably.
Yeah.
For instance, if we're going to have firefighters, there must be a policy. A firefighter must be trained twice a year, refresher.
Yeah.
He must go through a CPD
Yeah.
every year. He must be able to renew his license. He must be. These are red tapes we put in place. But because we have other pressing needs like, healthcare, we have education, we have road infrastructure, to be able to open up the markets. But fire safety promoters like myself have not been brought to the table to be able to alert them that, you're going to put the infrastructure of Entebbe Express Highway.
Yeah.
In case a truck burns on Entebbe Express Highway, how do we fight?
What are the
mechanisms?
Yeah.
So we said, no, we have to get the truck from Entebbe Airport or to get again from fire brigade. What are the access routes? And those are the challenges we have, because yes, they could be aware that fire safety and emergency response, all this sector is important, but unfortunately, the resource limited setting of our country, we cannot address all that.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
I want to hear your views, so please come down to the comment section. Let us know what you think. If you have any views, if you have any ideas, any comments, we'd like to know about it. If you have any questions for Mr. Sam over here, he will be happy to come back and respond. This time around, we've been handling the policy level. But next time, next episode, we should come down and talk about the basic level now.
Absolutely.
The one like you mentioned. So don't miss that episode. And any takeaways from this one?
I think the government should allocate simple things.
Yeah.
A decent investment in effective policy in place. Let the documents be in place. Then, of course, support the private sector in terms of being partners in the fire safety and emergency response. Finally, to ensure that the awareness is also a budget lift that can take in place. Absolutely.
I think you've done us wonders. Once again, you continue to amaze us and amuse us. Thank you so much for voluntarily giving that information. Absolutely. And thank you for being part of us from the start of this episode all the way to where we are now. Don't miss the next episode when we handle the next category or the next, we've been on the policy level.
Policy, yes.
So pull up another surprise stakeholder, and I think we'll be able to learn something. See you next time.